James, for your presentation. First of all, I want to excuse my English. I hope you will understand me. So I'm going to start with the presentation. Well, from 1232 to 1492, the last Nasrid kingdom established in the southeast of modern Spain, and the last one with Islamic rule in the Iberian Peninsula, developed a remarkable archetype of courtyard houses. As with its precursors from the Almohads, Taifas, and Caliphate periods, in Nasrid architecture, all domestic life revolved around the patio. It was the center of family life. It was the place for receiving light and air and the space that linked the different rooms of the house. It also had bioclimatic architectural function in regulating the building microclimate naturally. Islamic society absorbed the influence of the cultural areas where it was established. In the Mediterranean basin, there was the influence of the Greco-Roman world, using square or rectangular courtyards with arcades in all four sides. And on the other hand, in the Middle East, there were the Persian, Sasanic, Babylonian, and Egyptian tradition. So they produced a kind of rectangular patio with porticos on the shortest sides and closed exteriors. In Al-Andalus, where it's settled in modern Spain, the new style was already formalized during the 10th century in Madinat al-Sahra, in Córdoba, in the south of Spain. The main variations were introduced in the provision of pools and water reservoirs, floor beds, raised walkways, and galleries occupying the courtyard. In the first half of the 17th century, when the Almohad Empire drew to end, there was a tendency to decrease or eliminate the patio area. In post-Almohad Murcia, in the east of Spain, and during the Nasrid period, a pool model became popular, which was elongated in the direction of the longitudinal axis, occupying the center and at times approaching the two opposite main porticos. The corridor from the entrance to the street had a vent protecting the inner privacy of the patio, which acted as a lobby. According to the social category of the owner, the patio had one or no porticos in its small size. Center in each one on this side was an important polyfunctional room derived from Roman triclinium. In palaces and the more important houses, the available space allowed for flexibility in alternating the use of domestic chambers room, depending on the hour of the day and the time of the year. The two side spaces were always lower in elevation than the main rooms. Sometimes there is only one secondary side on the courtyard where they would place the kitchen and other ancillary parts such as the latrine, warehouses, barns, storage areas, and stores. The kitchen and barns almost always had a room above to be used in winter, taking advantage of the heat energy provided by them from the ground level. The existence of a second floor in these side spaces allowed the eaves to be level around the perimeter of the courtyard, thus enhancing the shaded areas. The upper floor often had little height a fact that favored heating in winter. Each occupant was sitting on the floor, on mats or carpet, which explained the common existence of small windows to the patio with the lower sills almost at ground level. Due to their reduced space and limited openings to the exterior, with greater exposure to the sun, this unit would be best used in winter. Main room used to be covered with carpets, cushions, and pillows. The use of these, along with tapestries on the floor and doors, enhanced the heat and sound insulation inside these rooms. During the 14th and 15th century, there was a gradual increase of the height of the houses, with the widespread use of higher stories, galleries, and porticos. This meant doubling the height of the houses as it reproduced the pattern of the floor below, allowing for diversification in seasonal use. The upper floor of the main rooms also caught more of sunlight by being opened by the portico to the south. This model would have been more directly influenced by the monastic cloister and domestic architecture from the societies of the Christian Spanish northern kingdoms, which had already adopted provision for adapting architecture to colder temperature than in the south. Nasrid's palaces and houses did not display great difference from a typological point of view. Only scale devices, often 10:1, and decorative reason difference a palace from a house. The last refuge of Andalusian culture, the houses of Morisco society, developed in the first half of the 16th century as a well-defined residential type, derived from basic characteristics of Nasrid courtyard houses. Patios were established in which the pole was a more modest scale, tending to the square. I'm going to speak now about the Nasrid royal estate of Los Alijares in the surrounding of the Alhambra. It was placed here, the Alhambra is right here. The Alijares Palace was the latest Nasrid building established in the environment of the Alhambra. It was built by King Muhammad V after finishing the Palace of the Lion, that in Arabic is called Qasr Riyad al-Saidi, Palace of the Happy Garden. This palace was finished in the last third of the 14th century and was destroyed in 1431 by an earthquake. And Los Alijares had its own water channel to supply its development. Unfortunately, few archaeological remains have survived from this palace, but its appearance can be reconstructed from conserved, graphical, and textual testimonies. The most important of the later one is the description made towards 1450 by Ibn Asim al-Karnati. This author knew this palace in his youth, although the building was ruined when he described it. Therefore, it was not only the last evolutionary development of Al-Andalus palatial construction, but also its own promoter, King Muhammad V, determined how its appearance had to be, pursuing a totally innovative layout with respect to other Nasrid palaces. The display of the building is not aligned with the four cardinal points, as happened with other Nasrid palaces of the Alhambra. Although the orientation is the best that fits the topography of the flat top hill on which it stands, there was enough space to accommodate the architectural complex in one form or another. Its orientation coincides with that of the Mosque of Granada. Its eastern Cuba, Cuba in Al-Andalus is referred to a thick-walled royal quadrangular towers covered interiorly with a dome. This eastern Cuba turns toward Mecca, and as a matter of fact, in the epigraphic poems written by Ibn Samrak to decorate the palace, it was called AKPIA. That is the wall that faced toward Mecca. The even absent description mentions a staircase allowing access to the building complex. The remains of this stairway were still easily identifiable over the cemetery of Granada. This in aerial photographs in the mid-20th century. It was located before the northwest Cuba, nearby the main palace entrance. And that's the four Cubas and the pool in the center of the palace. Therefore, these column marble galleries were connected in the four porticos of the Cubas bordering the central pool by perimeter galleries. The palace disposition would be biaxial or cruciform, with the four Cubas facing one another, situated on each side of the pool. The column marble galleries go from the porticos of each Cuba to the central pool, which they surround, until they link up with the next Cuba. Following the example of the Palace of the Lions, this astonishing building would revert again to a courtyard of two axes, which in Al-Andalus would have fallen in disuse in the 13th century, once the great longitudinal pool was adopted in Nasrid architecture, in which the patio had a noticeable linear character. On the other hand, this tradition still remained with the center rectangular pool introduced, defining a northwest-southeast axis, dependent upon an elongated layout of the palace. Among the earlier precedents, we have the Taifa Palace of Castillejo from Monteagudo in Murcia, built by Muhammad ibn Mardanis prior to 1165. Its rectangular courtyard is in a double symmetry cruciform shape, with two pools in front of the porticos and flower beds in the sunken terraces. The four central tower that could almost be called small cubas on the major and minor sides were preceded by chambers with porticos on the minor sides, defining the main axis. It would have in common with the present case the fact of being a peri-urban property with an enclosed palace. The following example may be found in the Almohad, Seville, inside the Alcázar. The first involves the building at the site of the ancient Plaza de la Constitución.